At that time, Changying was really a super noble son who moved the capital. Handsome, unrestrained, and suave, and more importantly, his personal ability extremely strong, and he was definitely the first to excel in Eastcliff. Back then, in front of Changying, Xin was completely gloomy. Changying, one of Eastcliff's celebrity ladies, squeezed their heads and wanted to marry Changying. One by one, they could not wait to find a life for Changying. Xin's wife, Leona Du, who was also Zhufei and Ziyu's mother, loved Changying to the death. Back then, Xin exhausted everything and launched a frantic pursuit of Leona, but Leona completely dismissed it and wanted to marry Changying. Even if Changying already had a fiancé, Leona was determined to die for him at any time. Even if Xin worked hard to create a grand proposal that made a sensation in Eastcliff for her, Leona still did not agree. In front of countless people, Leona only said a few words to Xin. The first sentence was, "I'm sorry, I can't marry you." The second sentence, "Because Changying is not married after all. Because Changying has a fiancé but is not yet married." Leona still felt there was a glimmer of hope and was still unwilling to give up. He asked a woman to marry him, but the woman said in public that she was still waiting for another person. Xin still remembers this strange shame. From then on, he hated Changying deeply. Later, Changying got married in Eastcliff. That night, Leona cried out all her tears and stayed behind closed doors for a month. Xin brought flowers to Du's house every day to beg to see her. He persisted for 39 days and spent 39 bouquets of roses before finally knocking on Leona's heart. Leona, who was nearly 20 kilograms thin, walked out of the room and the door, and said a word to Xin, who was holding flowers outside the door. She asked Xin if she might not forget Changying for the rest of her life. Xin would still marry her. Xin gritted his teeth and agreed. Then, Leona and Xin became engaged, and a month later, got married. When he got married, Xin slept with anxiety and fear every night. He was afraid that his wife next to his pillow would suddenly call Changying's name in her dream. Worry soon became a reality. A few days after the wedding, Xin could hear Leona whimpering in her mouth and yelling Changying's name every day while she was half asleep and half awake. During that time, Xin almost collapsed. Later, the eldest son Zhufei was born. Leona finally shifted her focus from Changying to her son. Since then, Xin could finally sleep well. The son's loud cry in the middle of the night became even the most beautiful lullaby for him. He could sleep peacefully in the cry of his son, but he couldn't listen to his wife sleep, whispering Changying's name in a very low voice, because the name became his nightmare. Thinking of the humiliation in the past, Xin felt extremely angry. Even though the incident had passed more than 2 decades, even if Changying had passed away long ago, he still couldn't swallow this breath. Josh was surprised when he saw his cold expression, clenched fists and trembling teeth. He worked for Xin for many years, knowing that Xin looked like this, he was generally angry to the extreme. When he heard that Matsumoto was the man behind the kidnapping of Zhufei and Ziyu, his performance was no different from now. Josh couldn't help but wonder in his heart, what exactly did this Changying do to make Master so angry? Thinking of this, he couldn't help asking, "Master is the man just like that Changying?" "Like." Xin nodded, and said, "But his temperament is a bit low-key, maybe he is dressed somewhat casually." Changying back then could be said to be full of style, walking with wind, and amazing aura. Josh asked again, "Is that kid just now the offspring of Changying?" "Impossible." Xin said coldly, "Changying's offspring has long since disappeared, and the life or death of him is uncertain. The Wade family couldn't find him. It is estimated that he died outside long ago." As he said, Xin smiled darkly, and mocked. Back then, Changying made enemies everywhere and offended the Rothschild family that controlled Europe and the United States. He was also targeted by all kinds of people in China because of his sharp edge. People who wanted to kill him were really too much. Speaking of this, Xin lit a cigarette and said lightly, "Although the kid looks a lot like him just now, I think he is likely to be a Japanese, maybe it's just a little like him." Josh nodded slightly and asked him, "Master, where shall we go next? Back to the hotel or?" "I won't go back to the hotel." Zin said coldly, if the TMPD can't catch them, if they can't stay away, they will definitely find a way to embarrass me and disgust me. I'd better leave Tokyo early. Having said that, Zin told him, just leave the hotel room there. Let's drive north directly to Aomori Prefecture, the northernmost part of Honshu, Japan. We will soak in hot springs for 2 days, relax and then go to China.